Latamways is serious about protecting its own information assets and those of its clients. It also intends to comply with applicable privacy laws. Any vendor that provides services to Latamways, who is asked to read or process Latamways information assets, must comply with the rules set out in these information security standards for vendors. The following topics will be discussed. First, the protection of Latamways information assets, where we will take into account using information and related facilities, workstations, network access, and vendor systems. Secondly, reference will be made to incident reporting. Finally, awareness and training will be mentioned. We begin with the protection of Latamways information assets. Regarding the use of information and related facilities, it should be taken into consideration that the use of Latamways information assets is a privilege, not a right. This privilege can be revoked at any time for any vendor who does not comply with these standards. And that all Latamways information assets disclosed to the vendor or to which the vendor is granted access, whether verbally, in writing, or in any other form, are received on a strictly confidential basis, and the vendor must keep them confidential. It may not reproduce or disclose them without written consent from Latamways. Secondly, the workstations that a vendor uses to deliver services to Latamways must include measures to protect against unauthorized access and software vulnerabilities, meaning the computer's user's account must be protected by a username and password. Passwords must be long and complicated. The user account used for delivering services cannot be used by people other than the vendor. All accounts must be logged off before leaving your computer unattended. The system's firewall must be enabled at all times. A malware security solution must be enabled at all times, and the database updates must be automatic. The operating system must be kept up to date. Antivirus and security patches must be promptly applied to installed software. And computers must be stored securely under lock and key. Regarding network access, the vendor who accesses Latamways information assets must do so through a secure internet connection. Wi-Fi connections must be password secured, and the default router password must be changed before use. The vendor may not use a public Wi-Fi connection to view or process Latamways information assets unless the vendor uses VPN software at all times to protect their connection. The vendor systems must be protected from unauthorized access, with at the minimum a strong username and password that meets industry standards. Except for information provided by Latamways for access tracking purposes, the vendor must have unique access credentials to systems. The username and password combination cannot be shared by multiple people. Incident reporting should also be taken into account. Any unauthorized disclosure of information or any action that may represent an actual or alleged violation of these information security standards constitutes an incident that must be reported immediately to Latamways. In the event of an incident affecting Latamways information assets, the vendor is responsible for taking the necessary measure to contain the threat, keeping Latamways informed of the status of the incident, offering reasonable assistance to Latamways in its investigation. Finally, awareness and training should not be overlooked. In this regard, the vendor may be required to take a training course on information security, as well as signing a training certificate. In such a case, the conditions for doing so will be negotiated with the vendor. Thanks for watching.